Hey guys, it's Matt with Green's Guns and Range. As you can tell, we got a lot of stuff to go over about ShotShow 2015. And this is in no way, shape, or form supposed to be an in-depth everything we saw. We've gone through and kind of picked out some of the new products, some of those things that we're most excited about, and those things that you're going to see right here in our store in the very, very near future. Everything we're going to go over today are by companies that we either carry now or have in the last couple of days set up relationships with to start getting that. So we're going to get started on that. One of the first things we really liked about ShotShow this year was the popularity of rifle chassis. If you've not been paying attention to our other YouTube videos, the rifle in front of me is what we've deemed the 1,000-yard project rifle. It's a Remington 700A CSD in 308. But we've noticed that even under its own weight, on this Hogue overmold stock, the front does contact here on the barrel, and we believe that's causing us harmonics issues. So we've got a couple of companies that we went and looked at and got to play with their chassis and see them. First one was a company called Modular Driven Technologies, or MDT, out of Canada. They released a new chassis called the HS3 to go along with their TAC 21 and the LSS. This is a company we already carry. But we're really interested in the HS3 because it's somewhere between their two other models. It's a little bit longer. You can get your bipod out a little bit further than you can the LSS. Super lightweight. We also got to play with their new skeletonized stock system, which is really nice. It's a fully adjustable stock for use on their chassis. We were impressed. We really like them. They convert to the use of AICS mags and something like the 700s. They're all CNC'd billet aluminum, lightweight, super strong, super rigid, and you can accommodate on all of their chassis a barrel as big around as the action itself. So we're talking big old thick barrels, have no problem free floating in there. We also saw a company called Cadex Defense. They are incredible. They're also very expensive. Some of these chassis we were playing with retailed for somewhere in the $3,800 range. But they are, of the chassis we saw, theirs were very close to the top of the most impressive. But their price point, I think, keeps them out of most everybody's reach. The other one was a company called McReese Precision. It was cool because in their booth they had Chris Reed of the Top Shot was there in his booth. But they make a really interesting billet aluminum chassis that right back here, right behind the action, has got a bubble level built in. And we thought that was neat because you never have to lift your eye off your scope to see your bubble level. Those that attach here on the scopes or on the pick rails and stuff like that, sometimes you've got to tilt your head out of the scope to see them. That you do not, you simply look down. We thought that was really cool. Of course, one of the big news of the ShotShow this year was Magpul's. Magpul is now making a polymer modular rifle stock that is going to retail for under $300. And we liked it. For that $300 range, we think it's great. And then they also make a bottom metal that would then convert your rifle to use the AICS mags. They're only making that one for the Remingtons. We expect to see that one here in the next couple weeks. But that's a good option for those of you that are maybe a little bit more conscious on price. Even with their bottom metal, you're looking at $350. We'll get you a pretty rigid system with the ability to change cheek height and length of pull, but they're not adjustable in the field. It would be a drop-in cheek piece and then spacers in the rear. And then the last company we want to talk about as far as rifle chassis go is a company called KRG, or Kinetic Research Group. We talked to these guys 2 days in a row. We loved their booth. We went and talked to them in depth, and we've decided that the KRG X-Ray is going to be the chassis that this rifle is going to sit in. It is not the cheapest. The KRG X-Ray is going to run you about $600. But as far as adjustability, the thing is spot on. It does spacers for the rear, but then it has a field adjustable cheek piece, rise up and down, with several different cheek pieces, sizes and styles you can get from them. They also make a spigot mount thing that slides in the front that allows you to move your bipod out even further if you wanted to. They convert to AICS mags, and then they make these really cool bolt lifts, which we've actually installed on this rifle. They're like $30. It's just a two-piece clamshell design. You just screw it over your bolt knob, and it hugely helps getting that bolt up. And it doesn't require permanent modification. You don't have to send your rifle off to a gunsmith, have it chopped and threaded and all that kind of stuff. So we were pretty excited about that. I really think that the chassis systems are going to take off here in the next couple of years. Everybody and their grandmama seems to be making one of them. But those are the companies that we saw that we were really, really impressed with. Check out KRG. They make 3 or 4 different kinds of chassis. And then they make a whole bunch of really, really great accessories to go with them. They had the most complete line of chassis that we saw, and we were just overall most impressed with theirs. Although the Magpuls, the MGTs, you're looking for something a little on the lower price end, those might be something to look into. And then, of course, we looked at a whole bunch of really, really new rifles. Let's start there. Let's do rifles first. First of all, there's been this chase for super accurate gas guns, and for years the only super accurate gas gun that we saw a whole lot of was the LaRue Tacticals. LaRue has caught up. They're not as back ordered as they used to be. It used to be that you waited 2 years to get your LaRue after you ordered it. We talked to them this week. They say that you're looking at about a 2-week lead time right now. We got to see their new Predator. It's a breakdown 308 that in a minute and a half comes in and rolls up into this little rack sack and then goes into a toolbox, and nobody ever knows you have it. But then it bolts back together into a 20-inch AR that they guarantee minute of angle accuracy out of. We were hugely impressed with that. They're also making a bolt-action rifle now. We were really excited to see that. And then we went into the POF booth, Patriot Ordnance. And these guys were really knowledgeable. They knew their stuff. We talked to them, and they gave us the same guarantee. They said if our rifle does not shoot a minute of angle, you send it back to us, we'll rebarrel it and shoot it till it does. And we were impressed with that. We held their guns. They're beefy. They're well built. They've got adjustable gas blocks for those of you guys that like to run suppressors on your 308s. And then they do come in quite a bit less expensive than a lot of the LaRues. You'll end up spending a few $100s less on a POF, similarly equipped POF than you do a LaRue, which was nice, and their triggers are fantastic. Then we looked at, of course, the Chris, which some of them are long guns, some of them are considered pistols, and some of them are short-barreled rifles. But they're making a Chris Vector V in 9mm now that uses the Glock mag. So if you've got a Glock 17, a Glock 19, and then, of course, you can get those big 33 rounders. And yeah, it just runs off of one of those mags. You're talking a gun that in its SBR form weighs under 5 pounds, super lightweight, super fast, and they're building them for the military as well. And then we looked at Troy Industries. Troy is one of those companies that we carry a lot of their products. We've just not carried a whole lot of their guns. We've carried their accessory rails, their flash suppressors, that kind of stuff. But I've never played a whole lot with their rifles. And we looked at those, and we're going to start carrying some of those as well. But one of the rifles that really interested us that I didn't think would was something called the PAR. It's a pump action AR-15. And you know, here in Texas, we don't have any legal reason to not have a semi-auto. But there are those parts in the country where you have to have you cannot own a semi-automatic AR-15, and so that's where they've gone to there. But for me, it seemed like for those of us that are wanting to use it for sporting reasons, you know, you want to shoot coyotes or something like that, it's a really, really fun gun. The action's super smooth. We heard reports from people standing there that owned the guns that said they were half-minute of angle guns. And so we were impressed with that. It looks like one of those guns that would be fun to play with. It's not as hardcore of an AR as some of these other ones we saw, like the FNs, the LaRues, and those kind of guys. But they're pretty fun to look at. And then we saw a whole bunch of manufacturers getting into some really, really interesting long gun accessories. We met with a company called Unique AR. They do a CNC machined handguard that is fantastic. We put it up on YouTube and our Twitter. This purple gun that they had, real ornate handguard on, and it got huge response. Everybody was talking about it. We love it, and that's one of those things that we can get. Furthermore, they'll do custom CNCing. If you want your rifle's handguard to say your name on it, or a kid's name, or commemorate a date or event in your life, you can have them do that. And you can order that direct from us as well. Then we looked at another company called SWAT, S-W-A-T. They're made right here in Campbell, Texas. You can get their complete rifles. They do a 308, a 6.5 Grendel, a 5.56, a 6.8, a 300 Blackout. They do just about everything. And just about every one of their rifles is going to retail for right around that $750 range. Their AR-10 platforms, the 308s, are going to go for somewhere around 11 or 12. So they're not hugely expensive. They're built right here in Texas. But we also really like their accessories. They do a matched upper-lower set for those of you guys that are wanting to build an AR. They do some mounts. They do some really great stuff. And while we're talking about mounts, I really want to talk about a company called American Defense, which is a company we've carried here in the past. We can get some of their stuff, or we could get some of their stuff up until this last week. But we went and we talked with the owner of the company, and it speaks highly to me when an owner of the company trusts his products. And in this particular booth, he had a LaRue Tactical AR on the back shelf, which is a $3,500 gun with an aim point on it, and one of his aim point mounts. And we asked simply, how rugged are your mounts? Do they hold up? And he grabbed that LaRue Tactical rifle off the back shelf by the mount and shook it like this. And we were going, don't drop that rifle. But they held on, they're super tight, and they're going to run you like $100 less than most of the comparable guys. And I do have a couple of their mounts. I have run some of their mounts on some ARs, and we've been impressed with them. And for years, I've been thinking, man, I really wish these guys would make one for a bolt-action rifle. Specifically one that maybe has a 20-minute of angle or 30-minute of angle or something like that built into it. When we went and talked to those guys, we found out not only did they make them, but they're making them for the United States military. And so this is an AR mount, but they do make them for the rifle, for the bolt actions in 20, 30, 40-minute of angle. They make them in 1-inch, 30 mil, 34, 35, 36 millimeter tubes. They make just about everything. They're QD, return to zero. They're guaranteed not to break. If anything ever happens to them, you send them back. They send you another one. Made in America as well, by Americans. And we just really, really dug that. We thought that was a very good product. And then we also got into some of the handguns. And the handgun world anymore is just huge. That thing is just exploding. We already mentioned some of the optics-ready Glocks. We did stop by the FN booth, as well as the ARs. We got to hold the FNS compacts. The FNS has been one of those guns that we think should sell a whole lot better than it does. I tell people, just about everybody that comes in the shop, if I were to carry another polymer-framed gun and I didn't want to spend the money for, say, an HK or something like that, it would be an FNS. And now that they've released a compact, I think it's even that much more likely to be that way. Then we saw a couple of the new guns. We did get to see the Taurus Curve. Wasn't hugely impressed with it. A lot of people said, guys, you got to go check out the Taurus Curve. I want to know what you think about it. Taurus is one of those companies that we don't often carry their products. They've got a great lifetime warranty. I understand that, but for a little while there, it seemed like everyone we were getting was having to go back. And until we see proof that their quality control's back up, it's just not a company we carry a whole lot of. But the Curve especially, we just weren't that impressed. It seems like a gimmicky thing. It's designed to curve around your body, and it's got this holster that disables the gun until you pull the gun out. That's your flavor, of course, go you, but you don't have any capacity advantage. You don't have any of that kind of stuff with it. So we just kind of scooted right over that one. And then on the accessories route, we were impressed to see that Magpul's now going to make Glock mags that are going to retail for like 15, 16 bucks. We're talking 17s, 19s. Right now the only ones they're making are the 17s, but they're going to start making them for the 19s, the 23s, the 22s, all of the line, 10 millimeters, the 45s. Eventually, they're telling me probably by the end of the year they'll roll those out. and then we saw quite a few companies that are making accessories for handguns that should have been released a long time ago. We did get to meet with Alien Gear. If you've not seen Alien Gear's holsters, they are really, really nice. Alien Gear for years have not sold direct to dealers, though. You had to go directly to their website to buy their stuff, but they're going to change that. And so I've got a demo holster here from them. This is for a 1911 5-inch. But this is a tuckable inside the waistband holster that we're going to be able to retail for like $36. And so it comes in well under the Galcos and the crossbreeds and things like that. And it's guaranteed for life. And I've never seen one of these break. Their Kydex is pretty thick. But that would be a good product for you to check out if you're a concealed carry guy and you've got a whole bunch of holsters and you want to consolidate, because with the Alien Gear you simply buy a new shell, the Kydex part, and you can change this to carry any gun you have. And so you end up just keeping one backing and you buy a bunch of the shells and you're set. And they're making that in neoprene and leather backings, all of that kind of stuff. Let's see, what else do we see? We saw a company that does some custom foam. Essentially, you can come in and get a handgun or a rifle case from me, and then you can take a picture of your rifle with some measurements, send it in to them. They'll print you up they'll actually cut you out a piece of foam to go in there, or you can actually go in and here in the shop you'll be able to come in, tell me what case you have, what gun you have, and we can design it right here in the shop. I'll hit send, it'll go to them, it will ship back to me. I'll call you when it shows up. You come in, we drop your gun and everything right in the case with the new foam. We're pretty stoked about that one. Now let's talk about optics. Optics is one of those fields that's growing very, very quickly. We saw the new aim points. We saw some of the new offerings by Nikon, EOTech. EOTech's making a thermal monocular now. A whole bunch of really great stuff. But we went and saw, we were there specifically looking for scopes for our 1,000-yard project rifle. And we went around and we looked at Schmidt & Bender, which of course the PM2 is often regarded as the finest optic on the planet, but it's well outside of our budget 1,000-yard project rifle. We looked at Steiner, we looked at Swarovski, but there were two things that really interested us. We stopped in at the Horse Vision booth, which makes the best, at least the best reticle for the long-range game on the market. They're making something called the H59 now. And I really wanted to see what kind of scopes we could get with the H59 reticle in it. And I was talking to the designer of the H59 reticle. And I said, dude, if I'm looking for a relatively inexpensive scope for a long-range rifle with the Horse H59 in it, what is your pick? And he said, well, let me tell you what scope I have on my gun. And I said, let's hear it. He said what he runs is this exact scope right here. It's a Bushnell Elite Tactical 6500 in 3.5 to 21, and he runs his with an H59 reticle in it, which is a great reticle. And so yeah, you can get in for $1,400, $1,500, somewhere around in there, and run the scope that that the engineers at Horse actually choose to run on a lot of their stuff. I was impressed with that. As impressive as the Schmidt & Benders are, the $4,000 that sometimes those things are, put it well outside of our price range, and the $1,400, $1,500 price range is still well outside of our price range for this particular rifle. But for those of you chasing an excellent piece of glass, excellent clarity, we've been hugely impressed with these. And now that they're making it with an H59 reticle in it, we're even that much more happy about it. And then of course we stopped by the Vortex Optics booth. Vortex makes some excellent little red dots. They make some hunting scopes, and then of course they make their big precision rifle scopes. And in there we have two different kinds. We have the Viper PST, and then they have another one called the Ranger. And the Ranger is again outside of our price range. So we kind of keyed in on the of the PST, and we found out that they make a first focal plane, 24 powered. With something in it called the EBR2C reticle, which is it looks a lot like the Horse Vision. It's not as refined, but it again is about half the price. So we believe that we're going to go with the Vortex Optics Viper PST on this particular rifle, as well as we're going to stock those in the shop. They come in under $1,000. first focal plane, windage adjustments and elevation adjustments more than you'd ever need. So we're hugely impressed with those. And then, of course, we looked at some of the more tactically stuff, I guess you want to call it. We walked through the police and military stuff, and there were some cool things in there. Some new lighting systems, something called a Tom car, a whole bunch of really cool stuff. But one of the things that we immediately keyed in on was a company called U.S. Armor. For those of you guys that are thinking about running plate carriers, those kind of deals, U.S. Armor has got some incredible, incredible products. And for our law enforcement and military guys, it is something we can get for you. Check out their website. But the thing we were impressed with is they had this body armor system that had plate carriers and level 3A and level 3A built in, and then a plate carrier on top of it. But it was really lightweight. It had a grab handle in the back. But then it had this really cool breakaway system. There is this name tag in the front. Essentially, you pulled it, and all of the body armor would fall off and hit the ground. So if you need to extradite real quickly, or you're hit, and you need to check out your buddy, make sure he's, or your buddy's hit, and you need to make sure, just one pull, and that whole thing just fell off. And so it's quick getting off. It's held together securely with all these fasteners and things, so it's not going to come off while you're in it. But then it just slips on like a normal vest. You stick your arms and hands through it in your head and boop, 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 go about your day. So we were impressed with that. Then we saw some of the really unusual stuff there that a lot of guys are chasing. We did get to see the new Kunan 357 Magnum 1911. A lot of guys were asking about that. It is a beast. But I think immediately picking that thing up, you just have this feeling that thing is going to be really, really fun to shoot. Of course, we didn't get to. But everybody knows that the 1911 handles recoil well, so we're not terribly scared that it's going to buck and jump out of your hands. But we were impressed with the build quality. Everything felt great on it. As 1911 shooters ourselves, we were all pretty stoked about that. Then we saw one of the more exciting products was a company called Recover. They're out of Israel. But we get questions a lot about, hey, I've got a 1911 that doesn't have a Picatinny rail. How do I put one on there? They solved that problem. They've got this really interesting two-piece system that replaces your grip panels, but then it gives you the opportunity to have a Picatinny rail on top. It's kind of this two-piece clamshell design. And then to further along that whole system, they then make a holster for it. That's either passive or active. Those of you guys that like a button to release it, like on the Black Hawk, Serpas, or whatever, they make that, and they also make one that's passive, so you don't have to push anything, you just pull it out. But what we thought was really interesting about their holsters, they're outside the waistband, but you can run any light you choose to on this thing. Essentially, there's these two little fins that flail out when you stick the gun in there, and then it locks against that little two-piece clamshell grip thing. And so you can run Surefire, Stream lights, any light you darn well please on that thing, and it doesn't matter to that holster one bit. And so you could, if you get a holster that's specific for your system, and then your light goes down and you borrow someone else's, you've got to make sure that light fits that holster. Well, here, there is none of that. It doesn't matter what you have on there. And so they're demoing that. It was really nice. And then for those of you that have already got Picatinny rails, whether you're shooting a Glock, and you need one, or if you've got a 1911 that's already got it, or the M&Ps, or any of those, they make an adapter that real quickly just bolts on, and it doesn't replace your grip panels. It's just a Picatinny rail, and it's got the little locking lugs on there to fit in the holster. So that is a holster that you can run on all of your guns, regardless of lights, quick deployment, and everything. They're just making some really, really, really cool stuff. That was actually the first product of the entire ShotShow that we stopped at and thought, why hasn't someone thought of that before? We thought that was really cool. And then along the goofy stuff, I know a lot of guys were really excited about this as well. Magpul is now making a 60-round drum for the AR. I know a lot of guys like more capacity, more capacity, more capacity. And truth be told, when my AR sits next to my bedside, I have a Surefire 60-round mag in it. but they're going to bring this 60-round drum mag to the market. It's going to retail for like $70, so it's a whole lot cheaper than the Surefires, or just about every other one. They use, of course, their followers and everything, and so we were impressed with that. There's a couple of other things here out on the table I want to go over real quick. One of them is this company, MGM. MGM targets. Check out their stuff as well. But they make these little, they're called switch views. I call them cattails. But they go over your scope, your power adjustment ring, and they give you something with a little bit more purchase on there when adjusting your scope power. For those guys that might need to take a shot at 50 yards and then 500 yards, that might be something to look into. You can do it real quick with one hand. You can do it with your shooting hand or support hand. It doesn't require you to take your eye out of the scope. But we've got these now for the Bushnells, the Vortex, the Nikons, all sorts of scopes. They make them for just about everything. And then they also make a universal one like this. This one will fit on any scope. And we're talking about a product that retails for $25. So it's not expensive. They're guaranteed. They're made in the USA. MGM targets also make some really cool reactive steel targets and stuff we're looking at for the range. That's about it that I can think of that I want to cover right now. We will be making another video specific to new AR componentry we saw. The ARs are, of course, hugely popular. And if I wanted to sit down and go through every manufacturer I saw that made a new magazine release, it would be a 45-minute long video. And so we're going to try and narrow that down a little bit and try and go over some. I've mentioned some that did some really, really exciting things because I thought that they were good enough to put in this video. But we're going to talk about some of the newer guys out there that aren't very common around here in East Texas. Guys like Odin Rifle Works. We found some of their stuff to just be hugely impressive. As a matter of fact, I'm running some of their stuff on my own AR now. We got back from Vegas, and I immediately bolted their stuff on. I thought it was pretty nice. But we're going to go over some of that. We're going to go over some of the new Armalite stuff and all the big manufacturers. And then we are going to do another segment on precision rifles as well, where we're going to talk about Desert Tech and all those guys. But real quickly, I want to encourage you guys, if anything we've talked about thus far has looked really, really cool, I have left manufacturers' web addresses in the description below, along with ours. And so if you need to look up, say, if you're interested in the KRG X-Ray, if you want to know why I've chosen that on my personal rifle here, go to their website, check it out. Or if you like the Alien Gear holster or the American Defense mounts, or you want to see the Troy pump action AR, all of that stuff will be in the information section below. So click on that, check that out, and then of course keep an eye out for our new videos that we're going to be releasing in the next couple days. Of course, in the description below you'll also find our contact information. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to start doing this stuff a whole lot more. And of course, if you've got any other questions, don't hesitate to give us a call, Facebook us, email us, check us out on our web. There's a place for you to email us right off our website. All that kind of stuff will be down there as well. Like always, thanks for watching, and God bless.